And welcome to Rob Schmidt tonight. It is always one of the best speeches for President Trump. We look forward to it every year, his United Nations General Assembly address, and today's did not disappoint. The president in New York to address the coalition of nations, which over the years, we can all tell, has become an international embarrassment. The UN is a terrible place. And right out of the gate, a glitch occurred for Trump's speech, a glitch that might have had you wondering what exactly happened, as the teleprompter somehow failed right as Trump was set to speak.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. And I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter, because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless, and that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
Turned it into one of the better moments of the entire speech. Now, is that just a bizarre coincidence that the prompter ends or breaks down for Donald Trump, who's a very hated man inside of that building? Or was this a low-level Free Palestine UN employee making a statement? Odds are we'll probably never know. But it seemed a little fishy that it happened right when Trump goes to the stage at a place where they hate him so much to their core. They hate the president inside that building right there in Midtown Manhattan. Trump, from his paper script, went hard against the aims and desires of this feckless globalist organization regardless, shredding the latest fashion of global leftists, which is, of course, the decimation of borders all throughout the world as a new method of spreading Western wealth.
The entire globalist concept of asking successful industrialized nations to inflict pain on themselves and radically disrupt their entire societies must be rejected completely and totally, and it must be immediate. The fact is, the United States has been taken advantage of by the world for many, many years, but not any longer, as you probably noticed.
At some point, the purveyors of evil in the West decided that the best path toward total control, which is what they want, was to just end all borders, a quick way to dump plenty of desperation into once fully sustainable, wealthy, and prosperous societies. Societies that would never give up their freedoms and quality of life willingly. But take a place like France, for example, and you fill it with Islamic migrants, and everything changes really fast. Chaos ensues, the country destabilizes, that's the goal. The real society globalists and Marxists dream of is that much closer to fruition when you do this. The destruction of the once beautiful West can be seen all over Europe, and it is so sad to see. In London schools, there are almost no white British kids left in schools in London. You can see an example there, 12 out of 2779 in one school. England's culture is disappearing. The left can't wait to see that. Sweden went from being a utopia of peaceful, beautiful prosperity, a wonderful place, to gang-ridden and full of violent crime. And Europeans' prisons are now filled with non-European people. Rapes are skyrocketing as loads of Islamic men who see women as little more than sexual devices are dumped into sophisticated Western societies. This is what the UN has been pushing. They're a big part of this problem, a terrifying reality we all must face. Most of the people that are running Western nations want to radically alter our world for the worse. That is the truth. And today the president called out this terrifying reality.
Your countries are being ruined. The United Nations is funding an assault on Western countries and their borders. In 2024, the UN budgeted $372 million in cash assistance to support an estimated 624,000 migrants journeying into the United States. Think of that. You're destroying your countries. They're being destroyed. Europe is in serious trouble. And because they choose to be politically correct, they're doing just absolutely nothing about it. Proud nations must be allowed to protect their communities and prevent their societies from being overwhelmed by people they have never seen before, with different customs, religions, with different everything. Where migrants have violated laws, lodge false asylum claims or claimed refugee status for illegitimate reasons. Your countries are going to hell.
He said it several times. It was a really, really good speech. It's always really good when he goes to the UN because he tells them exactly what he thinks right to their face, something that very few politicians have the guts to do. You never hear this diplomatically. Everybody always says something nice, and it's always cringy to the worst people. He went in there and excoriates them. Climate change, another critical part of what's happening to the West and the decimation of it, and the UN agenda, demanding Western countries cripple themselves via climate mandates. Trump hit that too.
In 1982, the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe. He said that it will be irreversible as any nuclear holocaust would be. This is what they said at the United Nations. What happened? Here we are. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Not happening.
What were once concerns about global warming and pollution morphed into another way to change society the way that they want to. And that's why global warming is now, and climate change is now such a big deal. That's why they scream it so loudly now, because they're using it as a tool for something else. And maybe they were concerned about pollution in the environment before. They're not anymore. The truth is the United Nations was once a virtuous concept. It has been completely, though, captured by evil in recent decades. It is now little more than a radical political organization. That's exactly what it is. One that hates the prosperous West, hates Israel as the only Western nation inside of the Middle East, and works every day to dismantle both and spread the wealth of the West to places like Africa and the Middle East. Trump today revealing the UN was completely disinterested in helping him as he worked to end several ongoing conflicts around the world. It's the UN, and they couldn't have cared less about ending conflicts because those conflicts had no real political value to them.
I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle, and then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. What is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. All they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up.
There you go, the highlights of a great about 45-minute speech today. And Alex Marlowe is the editor-in-chief of Breitbart here with us. Alex, good to see you. Is there anything more fun than watching him excoriate these people right to their faces?
It's a insult comedy routine from the most powerful man in the world to the other most powerful people in the world. It is a true treat. Rob, we're in the same boat at Breitbart. This is a content bonanza for us. We look forward to it every year. And this did not disappoint. Here are some of my key takeaways in it. First of all, his avuncular nature, while he was calling everyone out to their face, he was just pulling those puppies, like pulling their leash, like pulling that prong collar on them, saying, you guys have been very naughty, you've been very bad, and I'm going to tell you why you've been bad, but we're going to make the UN great again. And I think he's right about this, that we can't get out of the UN, so we may as well try to reform it in our image. Some of the highlights. The teleprompter in the elevator, that is a big deal because Trump offered to fix up the UN headquarters and pay for it, and they did not take him up on it. Him calling out the Green New Scam, very important because Europe is ruining themselves with environmental hoaxes. Iran. So he solidified that Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terror. And I think this was a message to some of people on his own side who didn't like that Trump bombed Iran successfully. And Trump is reminding people that he's steadfast in that. October the 7th, he reminded us of October the 7th. Rob, don't you feel like people forget about October the 7th for some reason? But Trump was saying, we're not forgetting about it. And Hamas will not allow for a 2-state solution, that they don't want Israel to exist. So that was important. He's not happy with Putin. He thinks NATO is funding the war by buying oil from Putin. And he warned against biological weapons. What didn't he do in the speech?
Yeah. He called He called that out beautifully about NATO funding a war against them. It's comical that these countries are buying Russian oil, and then Russia is using that to engage in a war in Ukraine that NATO is trying to end. I mean, you see example of it. I remember when they called out Germany for doing the same thing with Russia, and it's just like these European countries are run by such incompetence that it's no wonder that they're virtually committing suicide with their policies. The people that are running them have no minds, they have no brains. And the UN, at the end of the day, has become a political organization.
Yeah, and he's the only guy who can do this because it comes off as he's trying to tell you what's best for you. Like, you guys don't see it, but you're committing suicide with mass migration and wasting all your money on green products. And you guys claim Putin's the threat, but you keep buying oil from him, which funds his war. And Putin said, he said of Putin that he thinks that Ukraine can actually win the war, but they're not going to be able to win it if NATO countries keep giving money to Russia. So obviously this is a signal he's really unhappy with Putin, but it's very wise and clear-headed, and it shows you the politics in Europe are so backwards that they're going to waste their time flooding their country with mass migration and wasting all their money on green stuff.
You know, the administration has been blowing up quite a few of these cartel boats lately. Trump talked about that today, too. Take a listen.
We've virtually stopped drugs coming into our country by sea. We call them the water drugs. They kill hundreds of thousands of people. We've recently begun using the supreme power of the United States military to destroy Venezuelan terrorists and trafficking networks led by Nicolas Maduro. To every terrorist thug smuggling poisonous drugs into the United States of America, please be warned that we will blow you out of existence.
It's something to see how he's dealing with this issue, and how bold he is on this, because and the truth is Rubio got it right. I mean, you can't, interdictions don't work. You can't just keep stopping these guys and taking the drugs and whatever. It's not going to work. If you want to end this, send a message. Start killing people and it ends fast, and you save thousands, if not tens of thousands of lives here in the U.S.
Yeah, we did a report last week on U.S. forces killing 3 Venezuelan cartel operatives in a high seas drug interdiction. It's just one of these things that we're doing, and I think it's very, it's something we have to deal with the bad guys. And Trump is very efficient about these quick surprise attacks where he takes out the bad guys fearlessly. He never apologizes for it. He calls out things the way we see them. And something that Trump sees really clearly is there's good and evil in this world, and he's not afraid to deal with evil once he's identified it. And this is very refreshing because so many of our politicians on so many issues du jour, Rob, they act as though the evil side, we need to take them seriously, we need to respect their viewpoints. Trump just does not have that mindset because he's a political outsider, and it's just, I'm applauding the whole time when he does this stuff.
Yeah, I love it too. I love that speech. Just as you said, every year I look forward to him at the UN. I hate the UN because